We've got some people that are on the call that already has some of our Spindle products, and we've got some people where this is brand new. So for those that have already got the product, I might be telling you about something you don't already know. And obviously those that have never seen it before, hopefully this will show you a different sort of process that you can have to make not only yourselves, more paperless, but also your customers as well. And that's what all of today's presentation is about. So who are Draycir? So yes, we are the authors of the solution that you're going to see today. On the screen just now, you can see, a little bit of history, how many users we've got, what countries we're in, etc. And the most important one is the one at the very bottom, because Innov8 are an accredited Draycir partner, which basically means not only can they sell our software, but they can install and also support our software as well. In addition to Innov8 being credited, Draycir ourselves are also accredited by Sage. So all the solutions you're going to see today have already been accredited by Sage themselves, which we work with very, very closely, not just here in the UK and Ireland, but also on a much more global scale with Sage as well. So these are all of our products. So people will know us for Spindle, they'll know us for Credit Hound. And, if you've not looked at our products over the last 2 years or so, you'll see we've got some new additions in there as well. So if there is anything on that screen that I'm not covering today that you think, oh, crikey, yeah, Excel data bridge, absolutely need that, then let your account manager know and we can always look at doing a demonstration for it. But the ones we're going to concentrate on today really are about having a paperless office. So we're going to look at Spindle Document Management and we're going to look at Spindle Self-Serve. Now, for those that some of you might already have Spindle, you might only have one of the components it comes with. If you were to purchase Spindle Document Management now, you get both together. If you purchased it many years ago, you might have them separately. So you might have Spindle Document Distribution, but not the capture. What this basically means is you've got a product that will not only distribute out documents, but also you've got a piece of software that can capture inbound documents as well. So this is what we're going to be covering today. Now, the reason I'm going to cover those two products today is because they are the ones that we have the most common challenges and the reason why we developed the software in the first place. So those common challenges, and this even today is a massive one, where I will speak to customers and yes, they'll get something emailed to them, but then they'll print it out and then they'll file it. So I'm not going to say raise your hands if that's you. I don't want to embarrass you, but it still does happen, which doesn't make for a very good paperless office. But also, of course, there'll be some of you on the call today probably working from home like I am as well. And that's no good if it's been printed out and it's in the office. And it also means it's not easy to get hold of as well. So that is a very common challenge, even in today's world. Which brings me very nicely on to working remotely. If everything's printed out and it's in an office, when all of a sudden then we all went to go and work from home, it was, I've got all of those in the office and we're not there. So, it's very, very useful, obviously, to archive things so anyone can access them remotely. But even if I am in the office, trying to find that one document, whether it's that one invoice, whether it's that one proof of delivery, whether it's that one customer order, I've got all those lever arch files. It's really difficult to do. Sometimes I'll come across where people are electronically archiving them and it'll be on a shared drive somewhere. It'll be on SharePoint, but it's still really hard to find things. So that's another common challenge I come across. Requests from customers. People will tell me sometimes they get inundated, especially when a statement goes out and then, people are saying, right, can I have a copy of that invoice? I'm not paying that invoice until I have a copy of the proof of delivery, things like that. Often I'll have it where people are sending out invoices, but their customers need a backing document to it. So like the example I just gave, I'm not paying that invoice until you give me the proof of delivery. I'm not sure what this sales invoice is. I need our copy of our purchase order that I sent through. I can't pay for that invoice unless I see the signed off work report. All of those sorts of things. Customer wants to be able to order something themselves, or that customer wants to see what you have in stock. Now, every single one of those challenges that's on the screen, you can very, very, very easily overcome by the use of Spindle Document Management and Spindle Self-Serve as well. And that's what we'll be looking at today. Okay. Now, what I want to do, I want you to think about just your sales invoices for now. And I want you to think to yourself, where are you on the scale? Now, Spindle has been around since 2002. Next month is our 20th anniversary. And actually, Sage came to us to say, can you give us the ability to literally print out, and then it was to fax, then it was to email. And that's where Spindle first started off. It used to be called Spindle Professional. Some of you might still know it as that. And Spindle helped people print off a sales invoice in order for it then to be posted. Now, I still come across people now that are doing it in that way. Spindle then evolved, and then the fax machine came. So then we wanted the ability to send all of our sales invoices by fax, because that's going to save us money on all of the postage, etc. But then email came about, and then we were emailing our sales invoices. Now, I've got another step here, and some of you might be thinking, hold on, I'm still at email, what's next? I thought that would be the only way. But actually, the new way, and also think about your own personal lives as well. How do you get hold of your gas bill, your electric bill? For me, even my council tax, I have to log into a portal to get that information. And that's exactly what Spindle can now do. So we have really evolved the solution. And the reason why I show this slide is because some people tell me, I'm still in 2002, I'm still printing and posting out my invoices. Or some people say, I'm still emailing them. Some people actually tell me, I print it to scan it to email it. So yeah, you can do all of those things with Spindle, but ideally, this is where you want to get to. This is what your customers will be expecting from people now moving forward. You know, it's a bit like the whole, have you got a website? You know, when websites came about, and if you didn't have a website, it was quite frowned upon. Well, these portals are almost like that new website, that if you haven't got one, it's like, oh, you don't have one, or your competitors do. So we're starting to get to that sort of scenario. And, you know, we're going to be looking at how all of this works all together. Okay, so, you know, producing a sales invoice and then seeing it in a portal as well. Okay, so let's dive straight into the software so we can have a look. So I am working off two screens, so forgive me if I'm not seeing anyone raise their hands if you've got any questions or anything. And I do keep looking over there just to double check. So Spindle itself works off your Windows authentication. So once you're logged into Spindle as well. So there's no other, you know, logging in or anything like that, because once I open Sage, I can now use Spindle. So I'm going to show you some examples of ideas that you can actually do. So I've already got on my spooler a statement sitting there. Okay. Now, some of you on the call might already be, you know, using Spindle to send out your statements, but I'm going to show you my example because I might be showing you things that you didn't realize were possible. Now, Spindle itself, when we're looking at the distribution side, it's actually a virtual printer. That's what Spindle is, which in other words, that's a connection from Sage to Spindle. That's how it works. So in order for me to send that statement out using Spindle, all I ever have to do is press print. Doesn't mean it's going to print it. What this means, it will allow me to have a look at my print drivers, to select the print driver called Spindle Pro Auto, and I press OK. That is it. Now, the configuration of Spindle is something Innov8 would do for you. And they would have already scoped this out for you to say, OK, for your statements, do you want every single customer to exactly the same email? And the answer to that might be yes. It might be that, well, actually, I have some French or international customers. So therefore, actually, 90% I do want to be sent the same, but that other 10%, they're international, or I pick on French because it's the only other language I know. So I might want to change the language. So instead of saying hello, I might want to say bonjour on it or something like that and change the language of the email. You can easily do that in Spindle. I don't need to know sitting here sending those statements which customers are which. It will actually automatically know that, probably based on an analysis code in Sage. So you don't always have to send everyone the same thing. It can be different. Language is an easy one to pick on. If you are a company that has multiple branding, great. Okay, so I've got 30% of my customers with this branding, 30 with this, and the rest with this logo. So now I can do exactly the same as what I just did there. Select Print, Spindle Pro Auto, and now I could have 100 statements going out with all different branding. So these are all things that you can achieve with Spindle. What else I've done on my example here, I have sent mine to my drafts. Again, that's just a tick box in Spindle in the setup to allow me to do that. But you can send it straight to your sent items. You'd only do it in drafts, for your first test probably, just to check everything's all right. Once it's okay, we can send it out to our sent items. So what does my statement look like because I'm sending it out from Spindle? Well, here you go. The first thing you will see is a really nice content of the email, a nice HTML email. I can also have hyperlinks within here, logos within here. If my logos are different for different customers, I'm going to see it here, and I'm going to see it on the actual statement itself. I've also bought through the aging buckets as well. So my customer doesn't even have to open the statement to see how overdue this is. The other thing you can see is I've got a statement, but how are all those invoices attached? All those invoices are attached because I've already sent out the sales invoices using Spindle, so they're sitting in an archive. My configuration for this particular customer is attach the statement with the corresponding invoices to it as well. So is this customer going to bombard me with emails and phone calls to say, oh, can I have a copy of this invoice? I haven't got it. No, because they've got it all. There is zero excuse for them to pay. The actual statement itself, the name of the PDF can be changed because we're using Spindle. The subject line can be changed because we're using Spindle, and it's dynamic, as you can see. It's got the account number or the account name on it as well. Clicking into the statement, we'll also see something else I've added because I'm using Spindle. The actual layout I'm using is Sage, so all of the detail in the background from the account is still Sage. It's still your Sage report. But actually over the top, Spindle, I've set it up to say when it's overdue, stamp it overdue to make it obvious. I want my payment as quick as possible. And hopefully that is one way of doing that. If it wasn't overdue, it wouldn't be there. I've also highlighted what I want them to pay. And that's Spindle that's actually done that. Okay. So that's my example of a statement, but I can go one step further as well. If you're working in the accounts department, you've got an overdue statement that's gone out. Would it be beneficial if someone in the company knew about it? So for me, Phil looks after this customer. So he has received an email as well as to say an account you look after is overdue. So now Phil knows that account is overdue. It builds that bridge between accounts and, say, sales automatically without you having to do anything. It's all in the configuration. Okay. So that's just giving you a couple of ideas just on statements alone. If I have a look at my customer list in Sage and go to Abbey Retail, which is where that statement went out from, you'll actually be able to see the Spindle controls. Now, again, if you've already got Spindle and you don't have these, it just needs to be installed. So if you got Spindle quite a few years ago, this is a newer feature that you might not be aware of. And what that feature allows you to do is every time you distribute something out, it can be archived. but not just archived. You've got the attachments tab in Sage. It doesn't all archive it in one place like that one does. It archives it where it's more relevant, let's say. So the statement, because it's against lots of different transactions, I have done it against the customer details card. So when I look at that view button, I am seeing straight away that statement that I sent out, which I can also view from here. When we start looking at things like invoices, would I archive it there? No, I wouldn't. What would make more sense is if I archive something like an invoice against a transaction. So now if I go against the transaction, I've got that view button again. But now these documents here are just relevant for that one transaction. And I do have an invoice. Now, the good thing about these archives, if someone wants a copy of an invoice, it's nice and easy. You don't need to do the reprint at all. What I can do is open up a new email, drag and drop it. It will always keep the original there, but now I can easily send it. Nice and easy. Now, how do I build up this archive? Because you probably just saw there, it wasn't just an invoice. I actually had other documents in there. So let's have a look for the cycle of a sales order. Now, even if you've just got the sales ledger, we can still archive against the sales ledger, and we can archive any documents against there as well. If you're using sales order processing, we're just going to go through a process there just to have a look how we can actually incorporate different types of documents along the ordering route. So at this stage here, when you're placing an order, it might be the case that you have a customer purchase order that you want to attach, because by the time we get to invoicing, if they ring me up and say, well, I didn't order this, if I can see an order that has their customer purchase order against it, I can look at it straight away and it's there. So to actually attach it, you can see this drop down here to capture a file, and then all I need to do is simply, here's my document capture screen now. So all I need to do is open up my email, go to my inbox where I'll have the customer purchase order, and I can drag and drop the PDF. If it was just an order on an email, I can drag and drop the whole email. That's absolutely fine. It does exactly the same thing. And it already knows what transaction this is related to because I'm in the transaction now. So if I press archive, that's it. I've just archived their purchase order. Really quick and easy. If I want to acknowledge it, if you're using the acknowledgement in Sage, use Spindle to send it out. So press print, select Spindle Pro Auto again, and then that will send it out by Spindle. Exactly everything the same as when we said about this statement. So if you want the content of the email to be different, if you want it to attach different things, it's exactly the same. If you want this one to go in drafts, but you didn't want statements to go in drafts, they all have their own configuration to them. Okay, I've got mine going into my draft. But to give you an idea, there's my acknowledgement, and I've attached the purchase order. So now you can start seeing backing documents are easy because I don't need to send something and then send the backing document after. It might just be one customer that says, when you acknowledge it, can you put my purchase order with it? When you send an invoice, can you send my purchase order with it? So you can actually see what I'm doing is distributing out a document, but then automatically attaching another document with it. For those of you that are using picking lists, I've got an idea for you there as well. So picking lists generally are something that you're going to print out. You're going to print it out. Someone's going to go and do the picking, and then that will be probably put in a box somewhere to archive, or it might be scanned in somewhere to archive. So what we can actually do on picking lists or any other type of document that's similar to this is just put a barcode on it. That barcode knows exactly which transaction in Sage it needs to be archived to. Proof of deliveries are the same. Anyone on the call that does their own deliveries, maybe you have customers coming to do collections. Again, it's going to be something that you're printing out in order for someone to sign it. Ideally, you want to archive that. So if you need to refer back to it, you've got it all in one place. And this is what I'm doing now. So obviously that picking list, We saw that went to my email. That's just so you can see it. But it could be for picking lists, proof of deliveries, they go to a set printer wherever that is on your premises. It might be you want it to be emailed and also printed. Again, Spindle can do all of those eventualities. Received an email, a nice HTML email once again, because we're using Spindle to say their goods have been shipped. And also there's my paperwork that can be printed out. And again, that's going to contain the all-important barcode, which now I'm going to use to actually scan back into the system. Now, how do I do that? So I just open up my document portal, which it tells me I've already opened. There we go. And we can associate this to your scanner. So you just put those two documents in, press scan, and they'll appear in this screen here. If you've got a scanner that scans to email, we can drag and drop them across. Does exactly the same thing. And all we wanted to do is pick up the barcode. And you can see it knows which document type this is. So what I need to do, press archive. That's it. They've already been archived to the transaction in Sage. So now when it comes for me to print my invoice, I've actually got a configuration to say, send the invoice and the proof of delivery. It might be send the invoice, the proof of delivery, and the customer purchase order. The only time there is going to be any issues with the number of attachments you're sending out is going to be based on your setup of Outlook or whatever email client you're using, and also the person receiving it. So you'll know there's only a set number that you can actually send out. But, if we're only talking minimum, a couple of PDFs, that's absolutely fine. So now the customer has received the invoice and the proof of delivery. It's all sitting there. I can actually now look on my sales order list if I wanted to. And then what I can do is click onto that transaction and I can see all of that documentation. So if there is a query on this order, I can see their purchase order, their acknowledgement, proof of picking, proof of delivery, and the sales invoice. And remember, I can drag and drop them out. So if they wanted their customer purchase order and their invoice, fine, I've got it. Proof of delivery, we've got it, if we haven't already emailed it to them. Even if I look on the sales ledger, I will see exactly the same document sitting there as well. And remember, if you're not using sales order processing, you can still archive all of these. You've got your capture button there. You can archive any document you want to. Okay. So even though we're talking about the sales side of it, you can use the capture functionality on your purchase ledger and purchase order processing. So if you think about your purchase invoices, wouldn't it be great if you can just see all your purchase invoices here against the transaction? Yep, no problem. If you've got Spindle, we can use it in those places. So when I'm entering an invoice, we can actually capture the purchase invoice very easily, doing drag and drop, scan it, however you want to do it. So sales ledger, purchase ledger, nominal ledger even. I've got an Excel spreadsheet. I want to attach it to it. You can. Cash book, fine, we can use it in there as well. Stock control, if you've got manuals or anything like that against a stock item, we can do that as well. Invoicing, sales order processing, purchase order processing, and project accounting. Spindle Document Management, both the distribution side and the capture side, along with that view button, are in all of those areas. So ideally, even if you've got Spindle already, what are in your lever arch files in your office? Are you still printing and filing things away? Are you filing things on SharePoint or in a shared area? The answer is yes to any of those things. Can you relate it back to something in Sage? And if you can, use Spindle in order to archive it, because it's, as you can see, it's just so much easier to find things as well, because things are relevant for what you've got in Sage itself. Okay. We also have a search tool outside of Sage as well. So you don't even have to be in Sage to find anything. Customers on the phone, they're called Abbey Retail. I can write in the word Abbey. I've written in the account number. It will be exactly the same. I can now see every single document associated to that customer. And if I wanted to, they might want a whole range of invoices sending to them as copies. I can actually filter on just sales invoices, and there they all are. I can reduce this down, open up a new email, drag and drop from here as well. So it might be a non-Sage user, if you've got a warehouse, someone that needs to find picking lists, dispatch notes, etc. They can actually use this search tool without even having a Sage license because this is the Spindle archive they're looking at. Okay. There's lots of security behind this as well, what you want people to see or not see, whether you want them to delete or not delete, protecting documents as per HMRC's guidelines. There's lots of security and things behind there. The other thing this actually has is a mobile app. So if you ever have to take photographs of something, so that could be photographs of a loaded vehicle, a photograph of damaged goods, something like that, then what you can do is take a photograph, and what will happen is from the app, someone will take a photograph, that photograph will then come through to here, and they can tag the photograph, and then we can see what it is, if it's damaged goods or anything like that. We can then associate that particular photograph to a transaction. So we work backwards. I can go to the transaction I was just working on, go to my capture button, go to my capture button, say I want to grab something from that pending tray, which we just saw, pick up the image, say whatever it is. We could have a new configuration here saying return goods or whatever we wanted to do, press archive, and that has now taken it from the pending tray and it's now been added to my list here. So I've now got the image here as well. So that's another idea for you. For some of you that have already got Spindle, you might already have a license for that and you don't even know. So speak to your account manager, they'll be able to tell you what you actually have. Okay. So everything I've just shown you is fantastic if you've got a Sage license or if you've got a Spindle license and you work for the company you work for. But what about your customers? What if my customer wants to see that same archive? Well, that's when the portal comes into it. Okay. So the portal itself is a way of your customer would need to register to it. This portal is obviously all branded with Draycir colours, but you would do it so it's all your own branding, etc. Once you've given them access, your customer can then log in. And what your customer will see is what you've allowed them to see. So it might be, I only want my customer to see the invoices, the statements, the credit notes, etc. It might be you want them to place orders, to see stock. This particular user that's logging in now, which is a customer, has access to see everything, including this nice little promotions app. So it actually can, a lot of people use it for information. Did you know you can now order from here? Did you know you can now see your copy invoices here? So it's a nice sort of introduction to Spindle Self-Serve portal as well. So now this is a customer that's basically seeing a view of Sage. So I can now see whether my customers, my account is live or not, my credit limit, the balance. How else would I see that? I have to call you up or email you for you to tell me. But now I can see it, the terms, and this is what you'll all like. How many invoices are overdue? Coming from a credit control background, it's one of my favorite features, so they can actually see that on there as well. It highlights the last 5 invoices, credit notes, order history, their last orders as well. Now I can see my invoice and statement history. The statement I sent out earlier, there it is. I can click on the PDF and open it up. The transaction I put through, there it is there. My reference 123 that I did earlier, there it is. I haven't had to do anything for that to happen. Once it sits in the Spindle archive, here it is. There's nothing else to do. This is a view of Sage and a view of the Spindle archive, you see. So they want a copy invoice. Yeah, they just open this up and there is their copy invoice. If you're using things like the Pay Now functionality, etc., they would still be able to do that from here. They click in the PDF, press the Pay Now button, then they'll see it. If they want to make an inquiry, great, we can do that from here as well. Where is my discount? Send. So now, this is almost like a messaging, like WhatsApp or iMessage. So now someone internally will receive an email, say that's me, I log in Spindle Self-Serve, and I can reply here. But the good thing about it, You can see it, and everyone can see that. So that could be a salesperson at your side, your accounts department, your customer, and everyone at your customer, because it's unlimited users. So you can have as many users looking at this as possible. How many times have you had someone query the same thing twice? It wouldn't happen now because everyone can see it's in query. Order history. So this is something you probably want your customers to see. The transaction I did earlier, reference 123, here it is. That's what I ordered, but also they're the documents that are associated to it. So my customer purchase order I'd have sent you, the acknowledgement you sent to me, and also the proof of delivery. I can see them all. You'll notice there's one missing, and that's the picking list. I don't want my customers to see that, so they're not seeing it. We've also got a document search. So it's a bit like the Spindle document search, but now it's for my customers, so they can see every document you want them to see as well, so they could do a search. So if they just wanted to look for a certain invoice, if they didn't want to do it from the other part, they can do it from here as well, and they can just see a whole list of them. Okay. So now the decision is, would ordering benefit your customer? Would you want your customer to place their own orders? If the answer is no, that's absolutely fine. You wouldn't give them access to these two modules here. And you can give them access to any of these modules. It might be, though, good for your sales teams. You know, if they can't access Sage on the road, or they don't even have a Sage license, how can they see if you've got something in stock? How could they place orders? Do they have to then email in for someone else to place an order? They could actually use Spindle Self-Serve as an internal user and actually access exactly what I'm accessing now as the customer as well. You don't have to display your free stock. If you are displaying your free stock, you can actually do this by means of words or numbers. You can also display, if you want to, that customer's base price. So if they're on a special discounted price, that's the price they're seeing. And because I'm logged in under Abbey Retail, it associates that as well. If it's important that your customers see images here, you can also put images on. And images are the only thing that you need to actually configure within Spindle Self-Serve. Everything else is a view of Sage. If you had some documents archived using Spindle in Sage, certificate of conformities, manuals, recipe cards, you name it, they will see them here as well. But also it gives them the ability to order from here as well. I'll have 2 of those. What that will do is then put it into my shopping basket. If you've got customers that always order the same thing again and again and again, oh, fantastic. We can actually order again if I had it in stock. Let's find something I've got in stock. There we go. So I can order that again. Okay. Now it adds it up into my basket. So when I look into my basket now, this is everything I want to order. I can order from this screen as well if I wanted to. That's just another option there. I can even do a bulk upload via a spreadsheet. If I want to put in a comment line, yep, I've got the functionality to do that. The difference with your internal user is you'll be able to do things like free text lines you can do, you can change the description line, you can change the cost if you want them to as well. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much the same. So once I've got my order, yep, where do I want it delivered to, etc. What's my purchase order reference? Place my order. It's as easy as that. So now you've not had to place this order. Your customer's done it in their time, not your time. So what will happen in a moment, I will get an order number on the screen, 5149, and lo and behold, 5149 is from Sage. So let me just refresh that screen. There we go. So as soon as they've got that number, we know that it's in Sage, and here it is. That's the order already in. I've also got this column in the background on Sage to say, the document created by, and it actually brings up the Spindle Self-Serve username. So Hayley Bass doesn't work for me, that's my customer. So I know it's been placed by her. You've obviously then got all your configuration for Sage on what you want to happen with this particular order when it comes through. I've got mine so it goes through straight to live, straight for allocation. If you wanted it to be on hold and not ready for allocation, that's fine. It's just a setting in Sage. It depends what you want to do on there. Some people at that point will then go into there, amend the order, and then re-acknowledge it to them. But you will know an order's come through because you'll receive an email to say someone has placed an order through the portal. Your customer will also get confirmation that an order has been placed as well. So Spindle Self-Serve isn't just about ordering, remember, and it's not just about ordering for your customers. It can be actually me as an internal user that I actually want to come in here to have visibility of my customers. And it might be you only want to give me visibility of just the customers I look after. So now I can flick across to any of these accounts. These are all the ones that I look after. So now I can look at their accounts. If I am going on site to this customer or I'm on the phone to this customer, I've got access to all their account information and they say, oh, actually, Zoe, can you just repeat my last order? Yeah, I can come in here as an internal user and just do that. I can order it again. And I can place an order for them, nice and easy. Or this could be obviously my customer doing it as well. So I still have the same functionality as you can see, apart from I can do a free text line. If you wanted me to reduce a price to give discount, I can also do that within here as well. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same, apart from your analysis codes. If I needed to change them, because I don't want it to be the default one, it will allow me to actually do that as well. And you can see anytime an account's on hold, it will bring up a note. You can change any of this configuration on what the messaging says as well. So now, again, if I refresh my list, 5150 is now the one that I've done as an internal user. If I didn't have a Sage license, that's really good because now I can actually place orders. Don't get me wrong, we do have people using this even with a Sage license because they just like the order again functionality. So it makes it easier and they just prefer to use it sometimes, and that's absolutely fine. So that was the actual portal itself. And remember, you can actually determine what your customer is actually seeing within here. So if I log in as another customer, she can only see the dashboard, the invoice and statement history, and the document search. That's it. But within the same Spindle Self-Serve installation, I've got another customer that can do everything, and I've got an internal user. So you can have different people doing different things, and you make the decision on what it is that they want to see, basically. So I know we've only got 45 minutes on the session today, and I know we are sort of coming up to that. So just as a refresher for you, Spindle Document Management is what we had a look at first and foremost. Remember, those of you on the call that already have Spindle, if there's anything I've shown you today that your software is not already doing, or you've only got distribution, but now you'd like to go into capture, speak to your account manager. If you're unsure if you've got that mobile license, speak to your account manager. They'll be able to help you with that. It might be you do have both of those pieces of software, but actually I never thought of using it with statements like that, attaching the invoices. Again, you've got the software to do it. It's just the configuration you'll need help with. And then we looked at Spindle Self-Serve, which is, of course, the portal. I would definitely say the portal will always be more successful to you when you've got those PDFs in there, because that's what customers want. There is actually a configuration within Spindle Document Management to say, produce, let's take the sales invoice for an example, produce the sales invoice, archive it, but when I email the customer, don't attach it. So if you want to encourage your customers to use the portal, that's definitely what people do. And remember, I gave the example earlier on about, my gas, my electric, my council tax. They don't send me anything. I have to log in to see that information. And you will have seen on some of the examples I've shown you today, I've always got the portal link on there to make it easier for them. So again, it's just to give you ideas on how people use the software. So if you are interested in knowing more and you would like an official quotation for any of the software you've seen today, including any additional configuration you think you might need if you've already got some of this software, then please speak to your Innov8 account manager. They'll be able to do that. All of the software you've seen today is supported by the Innov8 support team, and it's also installed by an accredited Innov8 consultant as well. They have been accredited by Draycir ourselves. If you want a one-to-one demonstration, you want to make this more applicable for your situation, you might have all sorts of different documentation I've not covered today, like engineer sign-off forms. How do I get those in there? Other sort of scenarios as well. Then again, if you arrange that through your Innov8 account manager, they can arrange a one-to-one demonstration with you. If you like the idea of a Spindle Self-Serve, then Innov8 actually has their own demo link. So this would be the equivalent of your customer receiving a registration link from yourself, so you can see what that journey is. It is only a demonstration site link, so you'll see that all the PDFs are in there. You'll be able to place orders. Don't worry, they're not real orders. No ovens are going to arrive. So feel free for that. Click through to the registration so you can have a look through it as well. You share it amongst your teams and see what they think of it as well. I know we're going to be sending an email out to you, and it will have that link on there, so don't worry about copying it down just now. But that's it from me showing you everything. So I don't know if anyone has any questions at all that you would like me to answer before we sort of wrap up for today. Has anyone got any questions whatsoever at all?
Zoe, just a quick question for me. I know it sometimes gets brought up in terms of the document types. Obviously, you showed a lot of PDFs today.
Yes.
What document types are available?
Any document type. So it could be a JPEG, it could be an Excel spreadsheet, it could be a Word document, PDF, etc. You're not limited on the file format of anything. It could be a whole email that you're drag and dropping. So any format at all.
Fantastic, thank you.
Can this link to CRM? Great question. It used to. But we don't have any demand for it now. So unfortunately, it's no longer supported for Sage CRM, unfortunately. So the proper answer is no. It probably still does work, but unfortunately, it's not supported. Thank you for that question. Any other questions, anyone at all?
Well, that is absolutely running to time, Zoe. So thank you very much for doing that. I'm sure we can very much appreciate what you've done there, and it's a very comprehensive bit of software integrated in with Sage 200. So thank you very much for doing that. Just wanted to take this moment right now as well, just to say that there is our February Innov8 Insights event around stock control and visibility. And if there is something that you want to register for, there will be some information going out over the next couple of weeks. And if, as ever, there will be a follow-up email with the link that Zoe mentioned for the demo of Spindle Self-Serve, and a little bit of more information around Spindle Document Management, both the capture and the distribution side of things. So first, finally from me, thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much once again for Zoe for presenting, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.